Hi everyone, in today's video we're going to have a little introduction to how to get started in Substance Painter. So if you're just opening it for the first time, this is what your screen will look like. So on here, quite useful, so their tutorials that they have on YouTube are really useful, so definitely worth having a look as well. Community assets, there are loads. We have loads of materials already in our library, but community assets are where people have made their own materials and uploaded them, and most of them are free. So there's loads on there, and then forums, website, and so on. So it's totally worth having a look on there. If you don't want this to pop up every time, just click on Do Not Display Again and hit Close. So this is where your workspace is. So in the middle is where our model's going to be. On the left-hand side is our assets. Okay, if I close it by accident, you can just go to Window, Views, and click back and have assets open that way. So don't worry if you accidentally close anything. On the right hand side, you've got our texture set. So once we bring in our material, our model, sorry, um, all our information is going to start appearing here, but at the minute we've got nothing there. So I want to bring my model in. So I'm going to File, I'm going to go to New, not Open, New. And template here, I always use this Metal Roughness Alpha Blend because it means that I can have like opacity on there. But if you click on there, there's loads of different ones that you can go with, depending on what you want to do. So if you're working with a Blender file, KeyShot file, Unreal, Unity, and so on. But I've always found I like using the Alpha Blend one. You can change this later as well, so don't feel like you're stuck with it if you don't like it in the end. So I'm going to select, and I'm going to sort of grab this model here as an example, and then document resolution. If you've got a decent-ish machine, you can go 2K. If you've got a really good machine, you can go to 4K. If it's a little bit weaker, go a little bit lower. This basically do the resolution the material is going to be. Click on 2K, and then just tend to leave the rest of the materials, the rest of the settings, sorry, as they are. And hit OK. So you see on the right hand side, quite a few things have changed. So we've got our model now. Now to rotate our model around, if I do Alt and left mouse button, I can rotate it around. If I want to pan it, I can Alt and middle mouse button like that, and I can zoom in, scroll wheel as well. Then down the right hand side, this is our texture set. So when I did this in Maya, I gave them a color ID, so I added the material and then named it, and then I can turn those off just by using the eyeballs like that. You can rename those, so I can double click those and give those names as well if I want to. And then down here is once you've started adding in materials, your layers, you can start editing the materials. So I don't want this tutorial to get too long, so I'm going to go over the basics of it, and then I'll do a little bit more detail in future tutorials as well. So Substance Painter will work when you've got what's called UV maps. Now, I typically use two bits of software, so I use Maya and I use Fusion 360. So this tape was modeled in Maya, and you can unwrap things in Maya. This is what you want. So if you know what UVs look like, if I go to 3D, 2D there, you can see basically it's the model just unfolded as a 2D shape. If you use Fusion 360, Fusion 360 can't unwrap models, so you then need to take it and put it into something like Blender or Maya to be able to unwrap it as well. I do have a video of taking Fusion 360 models into Maya to unwrap to bring into Substance Painter, and I'll make sure I link that in the description for you to have a look at as well if that's something that interests you. But the reason we need that is that's how we can actually dictate how the material is going to apply to the model. You can always turn that off and on, so 3D, 2D, 3D only, 2D only. Typically go on 3D only so you've got more workspace. Now, once we're in, first thing we need to do is go to Edit, up here, Make Mesh Maps. Okay, now you want to change this output size to the same resolution to what you set the model originally, so I set it as 2K. And this is basically the maps it's going to create. If I click on Bake Selected Textures now, you'll see what it's going to start to do. It's basically calculating from those UVs and the model itself, basically how much material or how big the material is going to be, where the curvatures are, where the lights are going to be, where the shading is going to be of the actual model itself. And that's kind of what it's calculating now. Now, thankfully, this is quite a small model, so quite easy one to do. So that's done. And you can tell it's been baked because it's now sort of got shading to it, like that. So now what we can start to do is start to apply our materials. So in our assets library, here are our basic materials that we've got set up there. You can get others, so on the left hand side here, go to sort of 3D community assets. If you click on that, it'll take you to an online website where you can download and add in materials. I do have some that I've brought in custom as well already. Next one, you have got smart materials. These materials that have got like extra details added to them, like peeling, paint, dust, grime, water spots, that sort of thing. Next, you have got all these smart masks that add all those effects. So you can have like oxidization, stains, rust, anything like that. So you can actually create your own ones. Next, you got your filters. So if you want to have things like gradients on there or water effects. Next one is paints. So you got your brushes. So you can just do an old brush like that, or you can do things like cracks, or you can do things like, scrolling at the bottom, you've got like stitching or zippers. So there's loads and loads of little things you can do. If you ever want to do, Control Z will undo. Next, you have got alphas. So this is, oh, sorry, not alphas. Oh yes, alphas. Sorry, this is where you have other details that what you might not have done have modeled in things like pins and screws, and you can just use these as maps to actually make it look like they're on there. And then you have got textures, which are used in the actual material itself, and then environments. This will actually give you the lighting that you're doing. So we get started. All you need to do, it is super easy, is just take your materials, just drag and drop it on, like that. Now, at the minute, obviously, that's not how I want it to look. But on the right hand side now, I've got my main body one, which is this one here. I've got my plastic grainy. You will always have a first layer that appears on everything. You can just remove that, so I can right click and remove, and we can start to edit this. So what I can do is, at the minute it's on UV projection, so it's projecting onto the UVs, but I can change that to triplanar. And then what I could do is change that to physical size. So you can always mess around with these settings here, and I can go like custom size and bring that down so it's not quite, the bumps aren't quite as big. Bring it up a little bit, something like that. Now, lower down, you've got all these channels here. So typically have color, roughness, metal, and normal. So color gives it its color, roughness tells it how rough it needs to be, and metallic like how shiny, and then normal is how 3D you want it to be. Extra ones I've added in are opacity and emissiveness. Now, if you don't have those, you can add them by clicking on this list here and add other ones in. But what you need to make sure, if you want to have opacity, you need to be on this alpha blending, otherwise it won't come up. And so you can always come up here, click on this, and so you can always change the shader you want at any point. Okay, so we've added our first material there. Let's say we're going to keep going through and adding a few more materials as we're doing it. Let's take this plastic mat on here. Okay, but I want to change this color. So all I need to do is go to base color, click on here, and I can sort of drag where I want that to be. So it's really, really easy. Again, I'm just going to remove the first layer that's always on there. Now, this bit here, I want it to be see-through, have like a little window. So I'm going to take like this plastic glossy, let's drag it over like that. Now obviously, let's first of all just change that to like white. Now glass needs to be like opaque, so I'm going to come here and click on OP for opacity. So that's now appeared down here, so I can drag that to make that actually clear. Now you can play around with the settings, so to actually make it look sort of like glassy, I can bring down my opacity a little bit. I'm going to take that metallicness up, so it's shiny, and then I can get rid of roughness completely. I actually end up with what looks like glass quite easily. You will find as well this weird scenery in the background. That's because that's the actual environment we've got. So under environments, typically I think what one are we currently on? It's Panorama is the one we're on. But we can get rid of that later. So I'm just going to keep adding some basic materials. So let's grab that plastic grainy again. Oh no, I've already done that bit. Let's just do this film. So let's go to here, change that to black. And then what we'll do, opacity again, and just turn it a little bit like that. So quite easily add some materials in there. Now if you want to add like stickers or that type of thing, what you could do is on this plus side here, you can start to add in detail, like add in your own files and things like that. So I've already added some in. So what I'm going to do is come over to, I don't know where I put it in alphas and scroll down. So here I've brought this tape label already in. Now I can drag it in like that and go on base color, but it's going to go over here But I can, for example, hit W, move it around, E to rotate, and R to scale, much like with Maya. So what I am going to do though, is rather than applying it to the 3D model like that, I'm going to come over to 2D, 3D, and just drag this a bit, and then I'm actually going to drag it onto here and do base color. Then I'm going to start to drag it into position like that, and you can't see what's going on at the minute because I've got this on the back, so I'm going to rotate it around, and you can see it's starting to apply a sticker to the model like that. And I can do the same on the other side. So let's grab this one like that, drag it, put it into position. And then I can turn off 2D, 3D, just go to 3D. So that's how you can add like detail stickers as well. And we can always edit that later. So if we wanted to, we can go back to 2D, 3D and decide we need to drag that more or less, depending on what's going on. So it's nice and easy to alter it. Okay, so last thing I'll go through with you quickly, but I'll go into more detail in another video, is how to add like masks to more detail. So that in terms of like modeling and materials, that's done, that'll be absolutely fine. What we can do as well, so I'll do two other things. If we go to like alphas and say we want to have like screws in there, what I could do is take like this screw here, I could drag it in, and what I'm going to do is click it as a mask. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is R to scale and drag it in, make it a bit smaller. W to move, something like that. Like that. Now, at the minute, doesn't look very realistic. Okay, but what I can do, so at the minute we're on our mask here. If I click on this to go back to the original thing, I'm going to turn off the color so you can't actually see it. But then what I'm going to do is let's go to height, and then what we're going to do is cut it in like that. In fact, actually, we will add some color. Let's turn the color back on, but then let's make that metallic like that. So it actually now looks, we didn't actually model any screws when we were modeling the whole thing, but in terms of having it in Substance Painter, it's very easy to add those little details in. And then what I could do is we can just take that whole thing, duplicate layer, I hit W to move, and bring that into position over here. We can just move that a little bit as well. So it's very, very easy starting in actually at details. Isn't it like you could model that in Substance Painter or Fusion, in Fusion or Maya, sorry, but actually it would be a lot faster to just do it this way. We'll do one more where we'll just duplicate layer, like that. Now I won't do the same on the other side just because I've now shown you how to do it, but that is basically a really, really quick introduction to the kind of things you can do into Substance Painter. And I said there's one more thing I want to show you, so I will show you quickly as well. So say you wanted to add like extra details like rust or dirt or smudges, that sort of thing. So I'm going to go on the main body here. So what you could do is I could go up here and add a fill layer, and I could add a black mask. So that hides what's ever there. Now what I can do, if I go to like a generator, Here we've got all sorts of different things. So we've got like dirt, matte ledge wear, fiberglass. So depending on what you want to do. So if I take like matte ledge wear and click on it, you'll see now, and this is why having or UV mask everything, it's calculate where all the edges are and try to add in like dirt and grime around the edges of it. And you can do multiple, so you don't have to just do one. So you could do the same thing again. I could go like add a fill layer, add a black mask, add generator, and this time I could go like dirt. And you can then play around with these, add more or less dirt depending on what you want to do. So very basic introduction to Substance Painter. I will do future ones going in a bit more detail, but I want to give you a basic of how to sort of get started on it. So hopefully you found that useful. If you did, please do let me know, and I'll continue doing some Substance Painter tutorials as we're going along. But if you've got any questions, please leave a comment down below or email me at designwithsimon@outlook.com.